Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio, audio, no pictures. Listen to this video in your car as you're driving along, live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a few online sort of very one-sided feminist type debates that have been going on about are women being held back from well-paid, prestigious jobs. The argument is, I think, that 72% of the best paid executive roles in the corporate world, and thus the most prestigious, are held by men. So this is proof positive that it must be the patriarchy, because if outcomes aren't exactly equal between the genders, then it must be because of some invisible, undefined, unseen, well-hidden act of oppression. That's a very Marxist paradigm, of course, which the feminist movement, if anything, is very Marxist. So that's their claim. The outcome's not exactly equal, only amongst the prestigious jobs. They're not arguing that should outcomes be equal with, the people cleaning the sewerage pipes or plumbers or something. They're not. No. Equality doesn't matter. They're only the best paid, most prestigious jobs. They have to have equal outcomes. Now, the debates that you couldn't call them debates. The media outlets that are even prepared to do them have the so-called feminist person and the other person arguing that if women just have to work harder and then they'll get better outcomes. But the moderators are always women and or gay men, and they always constantly talk over the top of the person who isn't supporting the feminist position and give free rein to the feminists to make the most outrageous claims and assertions without challenge, whereas pretty much anything that the other side mentions or asserts is challenged by them. So the moderator isn't the moderator. Moderator is heavily in one camp. So if one of them, I saw it was a woman actually talking on saying that women just need to work harder. So then the moderator came in. Oh, so what you're saying is you just want women pregnant and barefoot in the kitchen. Oh, what you're saying is women just sit around filing their nails. That's what you're saying, isn't it? And the person said nothing of the sort, not even remotely that. So the moderator was constantly jumping in to protect the feminist position. So the debates, again, you couldn't really call them that, kind of got nowhere. And if the facts were mentioned of any sort, then that didn't support the feminist position, then they were simply ignored, and the conversation was moved on to some sort of moot and irrelevant emotional point. But I just want to talk about the situation generally. To get any woman on a board of directors or in a senior management role, certainly when I was a young guy starting out, was 30 plus years ago now, it was very rare. You kind of get it, but you first saw it in, say, the American companies where, and I didn't quite put the pieces together at the time, but American companies that had huge government contracts. They were in the US. They were the ones who were being leaned on to do this equity and so on thing. Now, I'll talk about my experience, because I've been as sort of like a VP and EVP and CEO. I've done all that sort of stuff, and still have a share in a business today. So I'll just talk about my experiences with women, because there are sound reasons why women are not in the top, prestigious, well-paid jobs. Now, I guess it's different in a board of directors where they just have a monthly gab fest and everyone can pretend to be important and so on, but where really the Black Rocks of the world are making all the decisions and the board of directors are just a bunch of puppets. So it's since the Black Rocks of the world have effectively taken over the running of these, this is the bigger companies, taken over the running of these companies. It's at that point where the decisions were no longer made at board level. That is, the business was not a sovereign business. It was simply a stooge, flunky, a bagman for the State Street or whatever the big financial firm was downtown. It's at that point that women started to appear on boards of directors in much larger numbers. And if you look at the boards of directors of the bigger organisations, where they don't face market competition, they're owned by the big finance end of town, then you'll often find there's a majority of women on boards. So wherever boards are not sovereign, you'll find a majority of the women. And a friend of mine was recently appointed to a board, and he'd actually been on this board some years ago. So everything's changed. They just don't make decisions anymore. All they do is get together and pretend to sound important and come out with ridiculous platitudes, then go off and have a very expensive, very sumptuous meal somewhere, and catered for with brown people running around in uniforms pouring their wine and everything. Lots of equity there. So anyway, but I want to talk about say prestigious roles that are not at the very apex of the they're not the CEO role necessarily, but they're well paid and prestigious roles. So at this particular, I'm VP at a particular company, and a woman who's in the operations department, she comes to me. I said, can I talk to you for a minute? She comes to the door and quite sort of sheepish, and I look up thinking, oh, all right, well, I better deal with this now. And I try to always have an open door thing, even though you get your time wasted a lot. It's better you get to see situations early and diffuse them rather than keep a closed door where things can escalate or morph into something bigger. So anyway, so I had an over. So she comes and says, yeah, okay, all right, okay, come in. Well, what is it? Oh, well, I want to, I want to have a I want to have a prestigious, well-paid job. I want to go into the sales department. Now, the sales or business development department, these were high-tech products with high profit margins. So the sales guys who did well did rather well. They were quite well paid, 3, 4, 5, 6 times the average wage, that sort of thing. In fact, some of the couple of them, the really successful sales guys, making more than I was, which is fine. You want your salespeople to be successful, selling the company's goods and services. That means the business is successful and so on. I mean, you want that. That's a desirable thing to have. If all the salesmen are making more money than me, that means they're selling a shitload of kit and a shitload of widgets, and that's good. So anyway, she comes in and she wants to go into sales. Now, there's a guy who was, I think, leaving or something, and there was like a vacancy coming up, as I recall, and she'd obviously heard about it and wanted to have a piece of it. Now, I don't think there was anyone else in mind internally at the time, so we probably would have advertised for somebody. But anyway, she comes up. Now, she claims that in a previous employment she'd done some sales or business development type work, and this she assumes. Now, her credentials weren't enough, and they were absolutely minimal. The fact that she thought, well, I once served coffee in I once was a barista in a cafe. That makes me a star salesperson for high-tech gadgets. Then you go, no, I don't think so. So a huge leap of faith to sort of think that, but a huge stretch. But anyway, she asserts that she's gonna. She really wants to get in there, and then she's going to give it her best, give it her all, and this is her dream, and so now it's quite girly. She presents it in a very girly way, so very short on facts, very big on emotion, and she does all the stuff like the hair flicks while she's telling you. So I try and sort of isolate. Okay, well, look, let's suppose you get the gig. And her eyes start to go wide. No, I'm not promising it. Let's suppose you get this gig. Let's suppose you get into this this sales role. Now it does pay well, sure, but it pays well because you have to produce results. Every quarter you've got your budget and you have to meet it. You've got to sell a certain amount of widgets, that type of thing, and that's where the money comes from. The prestige comes from being successful. It doesn't come from just occupying the role. It comes from being successful. And to be successful, you have to do, you have to sell lots of widgets, which means you have to work hard. Do you understand that? And now she didn't. She saw the sales guys with their expensive haircuts and their sharp suits swanning around, erect backs, walking tall, very confident and self-assured. She saw that and thought, well, I want that. I want what those guys have. Same as people might look at, say, well, I want the brains that PhD guy has. But hey, I don't have to do the work to earn the PhD. I have the IQ to it, but I want it because it's prestigious. So it's really that sort of thing, that the seeking of prestige for prestigious, or the money as well in this case, for its own sake, not understanding that you have to actually earn it. And there's a huge disconnect in most women's minds between something that's earned, something that's given. Now, so if you hesitate and say, well, she, according to her, if I don't give her the job or approve that she gets the job, then I must not like her. So you have to prove that you like me by giving me what I want, and then that's equality and so on. So anyway, she talks a little bit about. She's obviously had some sort of feminist pep talk somewhere, because she talks a little bit about, well, why are there no women there? It must be because of oppression and patriarchy. I mean, she doesn't use patriarchy. The word patriarchy wasn't really used at that time. But she's suggesting there must be something, there must be like a set against women if there are no women in there, in the sales team. And so, no, it's not that. It's doing the job. Last time we advertised for a sales rep, there was 0 women applying. But women would apply if they were gifted the jobs without having to meet an objective merit criteria. Well, no, that's that's not the solution to anything. So the idea of performance wasn't something that she understood. She just couldn't understand it. So all right, then let's suppose you get the job. Now that your head goes in the noose here, you're now accountable for getting results, which means if you don't get the results, then you have an embarrassing climb down where you have to admit to everyone here that you failed. You tried it and you just couldn't cut it. You just weren't up to it and you failed. Now, her view was, well, and this is very girly, and we see this everywhere. Well, I don't want to fail. So if you change all the rules, all the measurements, all the criteria, everything's changed to suit me and my shortcomings and my inabilities. And so then I won't fail, because the criteria for failure will be changed and the criteria for success will be changed, and therefore I won't fail. And hey, that's a good thing, isn't it? Well, no. You still have to sell the widgets. It doesn't matter that if you can't sell the widgets, then you fail. That's the thing. Now, so she started to take a step back at this point, saying, well, I want the prestige and I want the money, but I don't want the responsibility. I don't want to be accountable for getting results, because I might fail, because I'll be held. I want to use relationships to try and wriggle out of the accountability. And if you hold me accountable for getting the job done, it means you don't like me. And so she constantly sort of came back to that thought paradigm. So I said, well, look, I'm not going to cut you any slack here. You have to perform the same as any other person in the sales team, exactly the same. There's no favoritism, or for that matter, nothing will hold you back. It's all there, and you'll have the same tools, the same support structures, access to the same information, access to everything. Well, she was, no, you have to make special considerations for me because I'm a woman. Well, then on what basis do you claim that there's no equality if you're not prepared to stand equally with the men and in the team? Oh, it's not the same, and it's well, yes, it is the same. It's your job to sell the widgets the same as it's their job. So in the end, she went away and said, well, she didn't want the job because she didn't want to be accountable for getting results. And I kind of had expected it would go that way, but this typifies the attitude of most women. Now here's another woman who I thought actually probably could have made it, and she went into she did get a not dissimilar scenario really, but she got the CEO of the company was sort of pestering me about putting women into sales. So I mean, he wasn't demanding it, but he kind of kept on jibing me at the meeting. So I said, I better do it just to shut him up. And So I took a woman, or woman had come to me again saying, well, I want that money, I want that prestige. So I reminded her of the results of the thing. So yeah, results, yeah. But I could see that it just wasn't, she wasn't taking it on board. She was, her eyes were on the prize. And so so I put her in sales, and she wasn't, wasn't even coming close to cutting it. So so I thought I'd persevere for a bit, and so we had a number of talks and chats, and where I said, okay, well, you're not making the numbers. And so I'll break it down here, but effectively she said, look, the men are so confident, so sure of themselves, that makes me feel bad about myself because they're so confident. So, okay, all right. Then. Now, this is something that resonates heavily today, that straight white men are deemed, high-achieving straight white men are deemed as confident, or too confident even. And I hear that quite a bit, too confident. And that makes other people who are not high achievers, who are low IQ, affirmative action, that makes them feel insecure, or it makes them feel diminished in some way, that such a confident, high achieving person is around them, makes them feel bad. Now, this was one of her points, and we're talking about, getting on for 30 years ago now, where she says, okay, well, they're so confident, and they're so, so it makes me feel bad. Well, why can't you be confident? That they're confident because they're good at what they do, because they get results. So you be good at what you do, you achieve results, and you too can be confident. And so I get all this sort of bullshit emotional stuff. I'm a people person. I like to be with people. I don't want to. So again, it comes back to, I don't want to be personally accountable. I want to be in a committee or in a group, so no one's actually accountable. And we can all run to the toilet crying, the girls' toilet crying together, and so on. So, all right then. Well, the next thing was the hard work side of it. So a lot of those guys came in early and planned their day, got it all organized, got their the calls they were going to make, or the meetings they were going to go to, or the proposals they were going to write. They get it all organized, and they come in early to get this. So they'd be in at 8 o'clock, that sort of thing, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and would be hard at it. And but she'd come in at sort of 9:05, and looking quite bleary-eyed. So she would complain about, well, they're working hard. So why can't you come in at? There's nothing stopping you coming in at 7:30 or 8 o'clock. How can that be an advantage you claim they have over you? Oh, but I'm not a morning person. I'm just not a morning person. I just can't do it. I'm not a morning person. Well, why do I have to? Well, do it the night before then. Oh, I don't like staying back. Oh, why do I have to stay back? And the traffic's so all right. Well, you're saying you can't stay back at night to plan your following day. You can't come in early because you're not a morning person. You don't like the traffic at this time. Okay. Well, why is this someone else's problem? Again, how are you being held back? You are refusing to do the work. Oh, well, why do I have to do? So again, this personal responsibility thing was, and constantly I'm getting jibes here. Well, no, you're responsible for that. Oh, why do you hate me so much? This sort of thing. So she's trying to draw me into an emotional interaction, like I was a husband or boyfriend, or a family member or something. No, and I'm not suckering. And I at the time, young as I was, I just refused to sucker for that. No. You two can come in early in the morning if you want to. You can stay later in the evening to plan. You can do all of those things. Nothing is preventing you. You're choosing not to do it, and then complaining that you're at some sort of disadvantage to people who will work harder. This is, if you want the results, if you want the success that you claim you want, you have to work harder. You have to apply yourself. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And so it went around sort of like that. And so it kept on coming back. She wanted the rules changed to suit her. I don't want a merit-based system because it means I'll be measured. I don't want a pass or fail system. I don't want any of that because it means that I'm going to I'm not going to succeed. Well, then try harder. I'll help you try. I'll show you what to do. If you like, we can have daily meetings. So I was offering to give her daily meetings, like 15 minutes a day at the beginning of the day to come. But I said, look, I want you to come in earlier. This coming in at 9:05 is bullshit. You have to come in earlier. Oh, but I'm not a morning person. I thought, oh. So it clearly it wasn't working out. But she insists and insisted at the time that it was the patriarchy. Or I said, again, that word wasn't around. She insisted she was being unfairly singled out, unfairly treated, and if she was a man, she never would be treated this way, and so on. So she came out with every sort of silly, girly talking point, and was flicking her hair all the time while she was telling me this, and insisting that it was because I hated her and everyone hated her and the men were all against her, and so I mean, all and crazy fantasy of reasons. Now, I'll go a third one. Here is a lady who was actually quite good at sales. There was something about her, but she wasn't good enough. She wasn't as good as the men. And so, whereas the men were making, for example, 110% of their budgeted numbers, she was only making 80% and couldn't seem to really do a whole lot better. She tried to compensate for her lack of ability and brains. She tried to compensate by wearing, sexy clothing, the plunging necklines, the short dress, and so on. And I said, well, I don't think that's really appropriate. Like do you really? So she sort of toned it down a little bit, but really not that much. And so anyway, it ended up that she wasn't making the numbers, and she was given, I think she was given like 9 months to sort of shape up, and she was going to be let go at the end of the third quarter. And so, seeing the writing on the wall, she decided to quit, and she got a job at a big multinational type firm in sales, but where it was very much sort of bureaucratic meetings, account management, dealing with government department, that sort of thing. So she got a job there, which probably would suit her, by the way, the bureaucracy, the meetings and everything, and very, very reduced level of personal accountability. So that would have I think, suited her. But even her, she was, again, prepared to do it. Now, there's a, to avoid the situation where women are being held accountable, what some businesses did is saying, sticking with sales for the moment, is they would get a very successful sales territory with lots of cashed up customers, if you like, and they'd stick the woman in there. Now, that territory had been built up and made viable by a hardworking straight white male, but they'd stick the woman in there and give her some easy glory and easy income and this sort of thing. But they would run it into the ground pretty quickly, and then they'd have to rotate a capable straight white man in there. So coming back to this idea of responsibility and accountability, I had over the years plenty of women coming to me wanting the prestigious, well-paid jobs, but I can't think of a single instance where they prepared to take the same accountability as a man in that role. And in this case, sales. There's another. I'm just thinking of another one. So, well, why do you want to go into sales? Oh, because all the guys there are really hot. And well, no, that's not a reason to go into sales, for goodness sakes. So it was very hard to find anywhere women are prepared to be accountable. Now, sales is something where you have to meet your budget, so that's like the cutting edge of accountability. And there's other roles that are less accountable or accountable in different ways. But I found that wherever there was personal pass or fail accountability, women didn't want it. They might want the role and the money and the supposed prestige. They didn't want the accountability. Absolutely not. If there were roles where there was committees and no personal accountability, lots of meetings, lots of sitting around playing house and pretending, then women would flock to those sort of roles, but not the accountable roles, and certainly not the dirty jobs and things like that. So this idea of women not getting 70%, or women not getting an equal representation in the top paid, well prestigious jobs, that's changing very quickly, because again, as all the business decisions are made by the BlackRocks of the world, then increasingly top management jobs, whether it be on board of directors, CEOs, executive vice presidents, increasingly they're irrelevant as decision-making roles, and so they're just being handed out to women. And you see this sort of in the US, where they'll appoint a marketing director for a big brand name company that's completely owned by the BlackRocks and the State Streets, and that person will be a rabid feminist activist who'll have rainbow flags running everywhere and trans this and so that, and who it's somebody you wouldn't give the job to in a million years, but yet they're being handed these jobs through affirmative action. So I think we're in a combination of things where, again, the sovereignty of businesses barely exists anymore. The decisions are all made in the back room through the BlackRocks and so on. Then why do you need capable people in the managerial roles? I mean, you don't. You can appoint anybody there. Yogi Bear, Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, it doesn't matter. You appoint anyone to those roles, and all the decisions are really being made elsewhere. The commercial decisions are being made elsewhere. So you don't need. So in that level of reduced accountability, and really where all you do is turn up for meetings and so on, then I think it inevitably, women and affirmative action and quotas will play an increasingly bigger role. And I think in the next decade or so, we're going to get in the West, unless things drastically change, we're going to get absolute equity in outcomes, not through any meritorious means, but through through it being forced. There's a couple of things I noticed in a few of these online so-called debates, is that the definition of merit, as in pass and fail, the definition of merit is decided by men. So if we take away that definition, that is pass or fail accountability, then, and we recast merit as something else, then women will naturally come out as in an equal outcome situation. Have you heard so much insanity? You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback Challenge. Thank you for listening.